feedback, reinforcement, and intrinsic motivation. Reinforcement is the use of rewards and punishments that increases or decreases the likelihood of a similar response occurring in the future. Motivation is enhanced with motivational techniques to create an environment fostering pleasure, growth, and mastery. The theories of reinforcement are heavily rooted in the theories of behavioral modification and operant conditioning. B.F. Skinner is one of the most widely known and prominent behavioral theorists. He suggested teaching, or in our context, coaching, rests on the principles of reinforcement. Skinner suggested that students learn based on an arrangement of reinforcement. He said students learn without teaching in their natural environment, but teachers arrange special reinforcement that expedite learning, hastening the appearance of behavior that would otherwise be acquired slowly, or making sure of the appearance of behavior that might otherwise never occur. There are two basic underlying principles of reinforcement. First, if someone experiences success or reward, they will try to mimic and repeat that behavior to receive additional good positive experiences. Secondly, if someone experiences punishment or something unpleasant, they will try not to repeat that behavior. Reinforcement principles are extremely complex. Often the same reinforcement will affect two people differently. People react differently to the same reinforcement. Some people may take an action, such as decreased grade, for late work as punishment, while others would look at this as attention and even recognition for others. Individuals may not be able to repeat a desired behavior, especially when the event is unusual. For example, a quarterback who throws 6 touchdowns in a game. He may receive a lot of positive attention for his achievements. However, when he tries to recreate that behavior, he may throw ill-advised passes, resulting in interceptions, which then hurt his team. And lastly, individuals receive different reinforcers in different situations. We need to consider the reinforcements that are available to the individual. Some of these reinforcements may be competing and dependent upon the source. One may outweigh the other in affecting a person. There are positive and negative ways to teach and even to coach. The positive approach, which are designed to strengthen behaviors by motivating us by rewarding appropriate behaviors, which increases the likelihood of desirable responses occurring in the future. The negative approach attempts to eliminate unwanted behaviors through punishment and/or criticism by focusing on punishing undesirable behaviors, which should reduce the inappropriate behaviors. The negative approach focuses on errors and attempts to eliminate unwanted behaviors through punishment and criticism. Here are some practical applications for negative and positive reinforcement from the beloved Simpsons TV show. The negative reinforcement occurs to punish unwanted behavior. On the top left, Marge, Bart, and Lisa see smoke coming from the kitchen. They provide criticism and point out Homer's errors in his cooking, prompting him to throw out all the food, resulting in him rejoining the family. The positive reinforcement focuses on rewarding appropriate behavior. In the top right, Bart is seen studying. He receives a positive grade on his math test, and then is rewarded with a gift for the holidays based on his positive behavior. In the world of sports and exercise, some coaches, instructors, and teachers still use threats of punishment as their primary motivation tool. However, a positive approach is recommended when working with athletes and exercisers. So, which approach to reinforcement should we choose? It is common for coaches and instructors to combine both positive and negative reinforcement and feedback. Exercise and sports psychologists agree that the dominant approach for physical education and sports should be predominantly positive feedback. The Positive Coaching Alliance, which trains youth sport coaches, recommends a 5-to-1 ratio concerning positive to negative feedback. Sports psychologists highly recommend a positive approach to motivation to avoid the potential negative side effects of using punishment as the primary approach. Research has indicated that individuals who play for positive-oriented coaches like their teammates better, enjoy their athletic experience more, like their coaches more, and have a greater team cohesion. Reinforcement can take multiple forms, such as approval, positive comments, media press, and rewards, just to name a few. Rewards should meet the needs of those that are receiving the reward. Positive reinforcement should focus on emphasizing the positive aspects of the individuals and improving rather than on screwing up. Positive reinforcement serves as a reward for the desirable behavior, but it also provides the individual with performance feedback. Positive feedback is motivated by correcting misconceptions about performance. We can do this by looking at game performance statistics or students' grades in a course, for example, to determine how well people are performing. Positive feedback is also motivated by creating internal consequences. For example, how well did the individual perform in relation to others, or even to a standard? This also allows individuals, or even a coach, to put play or performance in perspective in relation to set goals. Rewards can either be intrinsic or extrinsic. Rewards are extrinsic if they come from an external, outside of the individual, source, such as a course or from the course or the teacher. Other rewards are called intrinsic because they reside within the participant. If an environment is rich in learning, effort, and improvement as opposed to competition, outcome, and social comparison, then the participants tend to be more intrinsically motivated. The appropriateness of reinforcement timing and frequency can ensure that rewards are effective. During the initial stages of training or skill development, desirable responses should be reinforced often, perhaps on an almost continual schedule. Once someone has mastered a skill, it is less critical to reinforce positive performance immediately, although it is still essential that the correct behaviors are reinforced at some point in time. Choosing the appropriate behaviors to reward is critical. When the individual is learning a new skill, they are going to make mistakes. While the individual is learning, it is important to reinforce successful approximations to difficult behaviors. This means that we will need to reward small improvements as the skill is learned. This is called shaping and allows people to continue to improve as they get closer and closer to a desired response. We need to reward performance as it is happening for the chances of that behavior being repeated or a new level of skill being reached. Positive reinforcement should again be the predominant way to influence behavior. Although many professionals argue against the use of punishment or negative reinforcement, it can actually control and change negative behavior as well. Negative reinforcement or punishment can have certain undesirable side effects that interfere with the intended outcomes. For example, individuals may misinterpret the information as a reward or even as attention for the individual. Some coaches think that punishment will eliminate an athlete's errors. The thought is, if the athletes fear of making mistakes, then they will try harder not to make them. When coaching, if you are going to use negative reinforcement, be careful to avoid berating or embarrassing athletes while they're performing skills. We also need to make sure not to punish athletes while they are participating. You can use negative reinforcement sparingly, but we need to make sure the punishment is enforced when it is employed, otherwise it loses effectiveness. The potential drawback of punishment and criticism include arousing fear of failure, reinforcing the unwanted behavior, producing shame, and hindering the learning of new skills. So how come some people use lots of negative reinforcement and they're still successful? Coaches that succeed through the use of consistent negative reinforcement are masters of strategy, teaching, and technical analysis. Likely, negative reinforcement is not the only strategy that makes them successful. These coaches typically also communicate caring for their team. Any negative actions or comments are not taken personally by either the coach or the team. There is a professional respect, if you will, that understands that these behaviors only happen in the context of practice or games. Coaches who employ negative reinforcement strategies successfully frequently have very talented athletes and employ strategies which allow their professional abilities to overshadow their negative approach. Intrinsic motivation is important because they reside within the individual. Outside sources, such as coaches and teachers, cannot directly offer intrinsic rewards, but they can structure the environment to promote intrinsic motivation. Individuals strive from an inward factor to become more competent and self-determined. Achieving intrinsic motivation is thought to be the ideal motivation resource. However, reaching it varies within the individual and among situations. There are several popular motivation theories which we should know, one of which is the cognitive evaluation theory. This theory focuses on how rewards are perceived. Determining how rewards are perceived is critical in determining motivation outcomes for individuals. Cognitive evaluation theory is a sub-theory of the more general self-determination theory. Self-determination theory focuses on three basic psychological needs: effectiveness, relatedness, and autonomy. Under this theory, intrinsic motivation, performance, and cognitive development are maximized in social context, providing the individual opportunities to satisfy these basic needs. Cognitive evaluation theory helps to explain the variability in intrinsic motivation. Common athlete perception problems include controlling the aspects, like their career, informational aspects, such as their self, success or failure of the individual, and function and significance of the activity. We can create a mastery-oriented climate by manipulating the following environmental conditions. We can use the acronym TARGET to help us remember the factors that can be manipulated. T is for tasks. We can accomplish this by designing learning activities and assignments. To support mastery goals, it is important to include a variety of tasks, making the tasks challenging, but they also need to have a purpose. A is for authority. We can provide opportunities to develop a sense of personal control and independence. This helps to foster active participation and a sense of ownership. R is for recognition. This is the formal and informal incentives and praise for completion of tasks. This helps to focus on individual progress and improvement towards mastery of skills. G is for groupings. We can help facilitate mastery by utilizing groupings, which are arrangements utilized in a learning environment, allowing students to master content or skills. We can use individual and cooperative learning experiences. E is for evaluation. We can use methods to assess and monitor learning. We can give opportunities to improve work using constructive criticism and positive reinforcement. And lastly, T is for timing. The time includes the workload or the pace of the instruction. This allows the learner to participate in scheduled activities that are appropriate for their level of mastery. Flow is a relatively new area of research in sport and exercise psychology. Flow is essentially our normal steady state, or our autopilot state, which includes our intrinsic motivation levels. Researchers have tried to determine what makes a task intrinsically motivating. This is the flow model. This chart can be located in your textbook. If an individual knew how to achieve flow, then they would be able to perform optimally with regular frequency. Flow is obtained when both capabilities or skills and challenges are high. If an athlete with less ability is matched against a strong opponent, such as a high challenge, anxiety will result. Combining low skills and low challenge results in apathy or relaxation, whereas combining high skills and low challenge results in boredom. Elements of flow have been identified in a variety of performance settings, but have several common factors. The essential elements of the flow state include that there is a balance of challenge and skills. For flow to occur, an individual must believe that they have the skills necessary to successfully meet the physical, technical, and mental challenges that are faced. They are completely absorbed in the activity. The participant is so involved with the activity that nothing else seems to matter. There are clear goals. Goals are clearly stated so everyone knows exactly what to do. This clarity of intention facilitates concentration and attention. There's a merging of action and awareness. The individual is aware of their actions, but not of the awareness itself. There's a total concentration of the task at hand. The focus of the attention is clearly on what the individual is doing at that moment in time. There's a loss of self-consciousness. The ego is completely lost in the activity. A sense of control. The individual is not actively aware of control. Rather, they are simply not worried by the possibility of a lack of control. No goals or rewards external to the activity. The individual participates purely because of the activity itself, without seeking any other reward. There is a transformation of time. Individuals in flow will typically report that time seems to speed up or slow down dramatically. And lastly, movement is effortless. The individual is performing well, but does not spend a lot of time thinking about it or appears to be trying very hard. Flow is often called an autotelic experience. An autotelic activity is one that we do for its own sake, because to experience it is the main goal. So can we control flow? Unfortunately, the answer is no. However, we can increase the probability of flow occurring by maximizing the preparation for the event. Increasing the skills and having high challenge will facilitate the presence of flow in elite athletes. Flow can be disrupted easily in non-elite athletes participating in physical activity programs. Internal reinforcement and motivation have a significant impact on flow. In some individuals, competition may inhibit the presence of a flow state. For example, organized physical education courses. There are some individuals who are not motivated to compete with others, and therefore they withdraw from the activity. We can also see this in the presence of others, such as parents. It is extremely important to understand the factors that can disrupt or prevent a flow state in individuals. The factors cited most often as preventing flow were less than optimal physical preparation, readiness, and environmental or situational conditions. The factors cited most often for disrupting a flow state were environmental and situational factors. Some of the most common flow factors for athletes include physical problems and mistakes, the inability to maintain focus, a negative attitude, and a lack of audience or coach response. You may even find that some of these factors affect you as a student, especially in the online environment. How many of these factors detract from your flow state in a course such as this? Some ways that we can increase the facilitation of flow. We can develop positive mental attitudes. We can have a positive pre-competitive affect, a positive competitive affect, appropriate attentional focus, physical readiness, and unity with the team and the coach, or in our case, the instructor of this course. Some additional factors to increase the facilitation of flow include providing successful experiences, giving rewards based on performance, the use of verbal and nonverbal praise. We want to vary the content and sequence of practice drills, involving the participants in decisions and setting realistic performance goals. So how can you help provide feedback, reinforcement, and intrinsic motivation to others? We want to be consistent in our actions. Remember, to be successful, the majority of your feedback should be in the form of positive reinforcement. If you are going to incorporate punishment, punish the behavior and not the person. And if possible, allow input on punishment. Sometimes this is not possible nor practical, but when available, include the individual to encourage a sense of ownership of actions. We can all make this work for us. We want to choose effective reinforcers for the individual. Make sure you are reinforcing the right behaviors. Make reinforcements dependent on the performance of desired behavior. And lastly, make sure that the person understands why they are receiving feedback, punishment, or other judgments.